This is Sharon Bornholt with Innovative Property Solutions in the Louisville Gals Real Estate blog, and I am really happy to have Steph Davis from Tampa, Florida with me today. Steph has been a full-time real estate investor since 2007. She's a blogger, an internet marketer, a coach, and she is truly an expert in her field. Steph has been a mentor and an inspiration to a whole lot of folks. Prior to quitting her job, she started a very popular blog called Flip This Wholesaler, where she's chronicled her journey ever since that time. One of Steph's areas of expertise has been with bank-owned properties, or REOs. And by 2009, she had written a book called Flip This REO, an ebook, which is very popular and is truly a roadmap for anyone that wants to work with bank-owned properties. So, how are you today, Steph?
I am doing very well, Sharon. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So, you got quite an unusual, I think an unusual story in that you just kind of dove right in. So, tell people back from before real estate what you were doing and how you got started.
Sure. I was waiting tables and then bartending for a very long time, basically most of my adult life. I hated it. I hated it from the beginning, but I didn't know. I knew that I didn't want to work a 9-to-5 job. I knew I didn't want to bartend. I just didn't know what the heck else that I wanted to do. I also knew that I wanted to be my own boss. So I was kind of, searching around, while I was bartending. I would look online or, just try and, look at different business opportunities, things that I could do on my own. One night when I was, I think I was visiting, going home for Christmas vacation. Or not Christmas vacation, but just Christmas to go see my family. And I was watching a late night, Carlton Sheets infomercial. I know a lot of people, got their start with Carlton Sheets, but, basically the commercial said, you can start making money with real estate. You don't have to have any experience. You don't need any cash. It doesn't matter if your credit is awful. And I fit that category to a T. Didn't have any money. My credit was awful and, no experience. So, I ordered the course. I think I put it on a credit card. I don't even remember how much it was. I just remember that I didn't really have the money to, I shouldn't have been spending the money on that, but I did anyway. When it came in the mail, or not the mail, I think it was like UPS, dropped it off on my doorstep. I ripped open the cellophane and I sat down on my couch and I read through the entire course from beginning to end, in one sitting. And that's kind of when the light bulb went off for me. And I said, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to get out of this awful rut that I'm in. This is how I'm going to go into business for myself and get out of this, job of waiting on people because I hated it. So, that led me to go to the internet and start doing some research on making money with real estate. I started going to forums. There were a couple of different forums that I would go to and just read and soak up knowledge. And from there, I just got into what, the vicious cycle that a lot of beginners get into, and that's just buying education and jumping from one, shiny object to the next. So first I was interested in buy and hold. Then I went online and I saw that I could make money with lease options. I could make money with subject to investing. I could make money with, rehabbing. I mean, there's basically an unlimited amount of niches. And I would just jump from one to the next, to the next, to the next, and I never really did anything except spend money on courses. So, a couple of years went by, actually. I think it was right around 2 years. And meanwhile, while I'm doing all this, I'm telling, friends and family about all this money that I'm going to make with, real estate. And it got to the point where I was embarrassed. I was ashamed of myself, and I knew that people were probably snickering behind my back, or, maybe not snickering behind my back, but at least thinking like, okay, you've been talking about this for 2 years. When are you going to do something? So I was kind of shamed into actually, I said to myself, all right, I'm going to get some sort of deal done. I don't care what it is, but I just have to prove to myself and to other people that I could do this. So, the very first deal that I ever did was a subject to deal, which is basically where you have the seller deed you their property and they keep the mortgage in their name. So you're basically getting into the property. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter if your credit sucks. It doesn't matter if you have money. They just deed you the property. I got into this deal and I had no business buying this property. It was at the time it was like a $250,000 house, really nice neighborhood. The mortgage payment was $1,350 a month. At that time, I was living in a little apartment in the hood. I think my rent was $600 a month, and I couldn't even pay that. So I had no business buying this property. But I just I did it anyway. Looking back, it could have gone horribly wrong. My exit strategy was that I was going to find a tenant, put the tenant in the property on a lease option, and then have them exercise their option down the road, and they would be paying a much higher price than what I was into it for. So I put the tenants in there. Again, I did an awful job. I actually didn't even screen the tenants, didn't do a background check, didn't do a credit check. I just basically took the first person that came my way. It was a family of four, and they had they gave me a $5,000 option deposit. So luckily for me, they made their rent payment every month. If they wouldn't have made the rent payment, I honestly don't know what I would have done, because I didn't have the $1,350 to pay that payment. So 2 years went by. It was getting towards the very end of their lease option, the term, and they were supposed to cash me out. I think I was supposed to make $15,000 or $20,000. Again, another mistake that I made with that. I didn't help them along with their, trying to help them get the mortgage. I just kind of let them go and said, good luck. Let me know how it works out. What ended up happening was, on the last month, the month that they were supposed to buy the property from me, I didn't receive their rent payment. So I went over, tried calling them. I think their phone was disconnected or they didn't answer. I can't remember. So I went over to the property. The neighbors told me that they had packed up and moved to Alaska. They just took off. They didn't tell me. So I went in the property, and it was absolutely trash. This was a 2,500 square foot, two-story house with a pool. Everything in the entire house was trash. The pool was trash, the floors, the walls. They left all of their junk in there. It was an absolute disaster. So now I've got this property that's trashed. I have a mortgage payment coming due, and it needs to be rehabbed, and I have, maybe $50 in my bank account. What happened was, and at that time, when I got the property back, I got very lucky because it was at the height of the bubble in Tampa. I mean, prices were just going absolutely crazy, and everybody and their grandmother was buying property. So what happened was, actually one of the regular customers at the bar that I was working at, I showed her the property and, showed her the numbers. There was quite a bit of equity in the property by this time because, like I said, the prices were, skyrocketing. So she said, well, I will let you she had a line of credit on her personal residence. She said, I'll let you use that to rehab this property. So I did the rehab. Again, I had no idea what I was doing. It was the most horrific rehab that you've ever seen in your life, and I wish I had pictures because it was just horrific. But I did end up selling it. I sold it at a discount because, like I said, the rehab was awful, but there was quite a bit of equity in it. So I ended up selling it. I made a $50,000 profit,
oh, wow.
Which was awesome. That was more money than I had ever seen at one time in my life. But once I got that check, I said, the money is great. I'm glad that I got this, but I realized that I did everything wrong. And I also realized that was just too stressful for me. I was just not a good landlord. The rehabbing process was just way too stressful and waiting to find a buyer. And, so I said to myself, I know I still want to, make money with real estate. I know I can do it. But I need to find a strategy, where I can be in and out of the deal with, number one, very little risk. And then, number two, I can close the deals faster. I didn't like waiting, 5, 6, 7 months to get my payday. So, again, started researching online. I had heard of wholesaling before, but I really got interested in wholesaling because with wholesaling, again, it doesn't matter if your credit is good or bad. You don't need a lot of money to get into the deals. And best of all for me was that you could get paid in sometimes, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, typically a month. But I really liked that aspect of wholesaling, that you could get fast paydays and, chunks of, $2, $3, $5, $10,000 in just a very short period of time. So started learning about wholesaling. Steve Cook had a website called flippinghomes.com. I was on there every single day asking questions, started taking action, and then I finally closed my first wholesale deal. It was only $2,000, but it was closed in, I think, like 3 weeks. And I still remember getting that very first check from my wholesale deal and sitting in the parking lot at Pure Title with my $2,000 check and just going. So once I had closed those couple of wholesale deals, I said to myself, this is it. I know that I can support myself doing this. I'm ready and willing to bust my butt to make it happen. So I decided that on January 1st of 2007, which was just in a couple of months, I decided I'm quitting my job. I'm quitting the job at the bar. I'm never, ever going back, to that line of work. I'm going to go into business for myself, and I'm just going to make it happen. So that was kind of the turning point for me, was just closing those couple of deals, proving to myself that, yes, it can be done. And I knew that if I did it 1 or 2 or 3 times, that I could do it multiple times, and I could make it work. So that was towards the end of 2006 when I finally made that decision and just said, I'm going to make this happen no matter what.
Okay. So at that point in time, you were pretty confident, feeling pretty confident. So how did, then tell me what happened with your next year.
Okay. So I might have gotten a little big for my britches at that point too. I don't want to say it was luck that I got those first, couple of deals, because I was out there busting my butt, but they kind of did fall in my lap. So I was kind of, my mentality at the time was like, well, this is kind of easy. I just, knocked a whole bunch of deals out. I had made like maybe 10 or 15 grand in a couple of months. So January 1st came, I quit my job. I said I was never going back. And then I went out and I just busted my butt. I mean, I was marketing my tail off. I didn't have a whole lot of cash. I had the cash from those deals, but a lot of that went to pay bills that I was behind on. I had some money for marketing, but not a whole lot. So I was doing a lot of bandit signs and putting a lot of flyers out around town wherever I could. I did a little bit of direct mail marketing, but I was out there busting my butt to get that next deal. And what happened was 6 full months went by. And I did not get one single deal. I got very close. I would think that I was, getting ready to put something together, and for whatever reason it would fall apart. So, it was very, very difficult because I didn't have any other income coming in. I quit my job. I burned through, well, I shouldn't say burned through, but, 6 months of paying your bills and, just living, that money doesn't last very long. So, it was a very difficult, period of time for me, and I was just absolutely I'm very, very stubborn person, which I think helped me a lot during this time period, because I absolutely refused to go back and get a job. My mentality was, I'll live in the streets, I'll live under a bridge, I'll live at somebody's house until I can support myself, but I am absolutely not, I'm just not going to go back. So that's kind of how the next 6 months went. I just really, really struggled, and it was so incredibly frustrating, and I was just, having all of these doubts and thinking, well, maybe I just wasn't meant to do this, maybe this works for everybody else and not me. So it was a difficult time period. I guess that would be what you would call it was the learning curve. But I struggled through it. And then after 6 months went by, I was literally on my last $100. I was going to have to borrow more money. I had already had to borrow some money from my dad to just pay bills. I was going to have to borrow more money, because I was on my last, $100, and I ended up finally putting a deal together. I think I made $4 grand on that deal. And then after that, is when I got interested in, REO properties, wholesaling REO properties, because I really like the fact that with bank-owned properties, you don't have to spend a dime on marketing. I could just go to the MLS. I had, done a lot of networking during this prior 6 months, met some other investors and other wholesalers who had MLS access, and found a couple of people who let me use their MLS access. So with bank-owned properties, I could just go on the MLS, make the offers, and I didn't have to spend money on marketing. So that's kind of how I got interested in the bank-owned properties.
Well, I know you got to be quite the expert on bank-owned properties, and that's for people like me that spend a lot of money on marketing, that's an interesting concept. I don't know do you think it's as easy today with the bank-owned properties as it was a couple of years ago?
I think there's a lot more. Well, I know that there's a lot more competition. You can still, get deals if you're making offers consistently. But there's more competition and less inventory. But it's still my preferred method. I guess just because a couple of reasons. Number one, still the fact that you don't have to spend money on marketing. You can just go make as many offers as you want, and it doesn't cost you anything. And number two, I guess I'm just lazy in the respect that going out and talking to sellers and going into other people's houses and just that whole the negotiations on the phone, I just do not like it at all. And there's no emotion involved when you're going after bank-owned properties. You just submit an offer. They either reject it, accept it, or counter you, and then that's it. Right. There's no face-to-face negotiations, or there's no emotion involved with the bank-owned properties. So that's why I prefer bank-owned properties. But it did take me a while too. Once I set my mind on, okay, I'm going to go after REOs. I think it took me like 123, I want to say, offers. Yeah, before I got one accepted. And again, this just goes back to the fact of I'm just stubborn, and I started making like 5, 10, 15 offers, and they all got rejected. And I just said to myself, it's kind of like a challenge. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm just going to keep making offers. I don't care if I'm 100 years old and I'm still making offers and I haven't gotten a deal yet. I'm going to make offers until I get one accepted. And then once I got that first one accepted, I just got on a roll, and I just started closing deal after deal after deal. So that was kind of my story of how I went from bartender to starting wholesaling, quitting my job, and then finally found the niche that worked well for me.
Well, and then you took your niche and you went to the next level. You wrote your ebook, Flip This REO, which I know that's a great book. If for anyone who wants to really know how to work with REO or bank-owned properties, that's a virtual roadmap for folks.
Thanks. When I left this part out of the story, when I quit my job, I started a blog called Flip This Wholesaler, and I just kind of chronicled my whole, everything that I did every day, basically my whole path from, not knowing anything as a wholesaler to, starting to close a lot of deals and do really well. What happened was the blog started getting popular, and I started getting people, they were seeing me doing really well with bank-owned properties, and I started getting people, I would get tons and tons of questions every single day, of people wanting to know, how are you doing this? Wholesaling bank-owned properties is a little bit different than, wholesaling just regular properties with private sellers. So, I kept seeing a lot of the same questions that people were having and the same, problems and stumbling blocks that people were having. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead, take all of these questions, answer them, and write an ebook. So I ended up, writing that and selling it on my blog, and that, turned into another income stream for me, which is nice, because with wholesaling, or, as you probably know, with, any niche in real estate, it's up and down. You can go sometimes, no matter how much you're busting your butt or marketing, you can go, a month or two with no deals closing. So it was nice to have that, extra income stream coming in. So, if I'm not closing a deal this month, I still have money coming in. So, that was a nice extra added bonus to have that cash coming in.
Well, I know it's just with everyone I've talked to, they've gone on to their business has evolved into something much bigger and much different than what they initially thought. They were just going to do one of the strategies in real estate. Now, I know that your has just changed so much from what you initially thought. You were just going to go and flip houses. So, how has your business changed today? Could you have even imagined that it would be like this a few years ago?
No, not really. I put in a lot of hard work, but, I work a lot less now. I have my online business. I do some coaching. It doesn't matter. I don't have that stress. Having multiple streams of income, it alleviates that stress of, oh my gosh, I have to go out and close a deal to eat or to pay my bills or whatever. So, it's nice that it's evolved that way. I like to, like I tell other people, I try not to keep all of my eggs in one basket. So, I have several different streams of income coming in. So if something isn't working on one, in one business, then I have something else to fall back on. And I also like, with my ebook and with my online business, it's basically passive income.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to, I can be sleeping and making money sometimes. So, which is nice. And
that's the nice part. I think one thing that some people think, though, passive income is not something that you can never have to work on. You do have to do things, but it's great to wake up and see in your email you've got money, isn't it?
Right. Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Great.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I know you were looking for a particular lifestyle, and that was one of your big reasons that you wanted to be out of your job.
Yeah, and that's what I was just going to say, is that my goal all along has been, number one, to be my own boss, but number two, just to have the freedom to do whatever the heck I want to do whenever I want to do it. I like to travel a lot. I like to just go out and, explore, go out and do things in nature and boating and canoeing and stuff like that. So that's what I'm more after, the lifestyle. So I try and look for ways to basically do the least amount of work that I possibly can and have the least amount of responsibility and still have cash coming in. So that's what I've kind of been working towards over the last 6 years, and it's over the last year or so it's kind of finally started to come to fruition, and I'm just really been able to enjoy my life and just go out and do the things that I want to do. So,
well, I think that's great. There's a lot to be said for wealth means different things to different people, and for some people it means being able to pay your bills and being able to do what you want to do. And I think for me that's certainly true wealth. You can work yourself to death and have a ton of money and still not really feel like you're wealthy.
Absolutely. I'm just, if I have my freedom and I'm, can go enjoy my life, that's really, I'm never really been concerned with having a bunch of stuff, fancy cars or mansion or whatever. I can give a crap. I want my freedom, and if I have that, then I'm good. So.
Well, in kind of closing, what advice would you give folks who are wanting to leave their job? Anything you wish you could have done differently, or anything that would make it easier for them to make the transition?
I would say, it's hard for me to answer that, just because I don't want to lead people down the wrong path. For me, honestly, if I wouldn't have just quit my job, and I do really well under pressure. I do really well when my back is up against the wall. So I honestly don't think if I would have stayed at my job, I don't think I would have ever found success with real estate, with wholesaling. So, and I'm not by any means suggesting that everyone go out there and quit their job.
Right.
But I would say just make sure that you educate yourself first. There's plenty of education out there, free education. Both of us have, you and I both have websites with lots of great information. You can go to YouTube. And look through the videos on wholesaling and get a complete education on how to wholesale a property and do your first deal. So I would say, just educate yourself. Pick one niche. If you're just starting out and you are low on cash and you have bad credit and you don't really know what you're doing, I really, really think that wholesaling is the way to go, because there's very little risk and you can get in and out of the deal very quickly. You don't have to put a lot of cash into the deal. So I would say pick a niche. My suggestion is wholesaling if you're just getting started, and then just kind of try and put blinders on. I know a lot of people get subscribed to a lot of different, internet marketers' email lists, and every day there's a new strategy coming out, and there's a new product and a new I would say just pick one. If it's going to be wholesaling, fine. If it's something else, fine. But just stick with that, and realize that there's going to be a learning curve involved. A lot of people, what they'll do is they'll buy a course. They'll, spend a week or two taking some action, and then they'll run into a roadblock, and then they'll be like, well, let me try something else. You guys have to realize that there is a learning curve no matter what strategy you decide to pursue, and you have to be persistent, and you have to be willing to just work through that learning curve no matter how hard it is. So I would say, pick a niche, educate yourself, and then just set your mind to it and say, all right, I'm going to go make money doing this, and don't stop until you do.
That's great advice. Great advice. It's hard not to get swayed by the newest shiny object that comes along, but pick one and master it. That's a great strategy. Well, thanks, Steph, for coming on today. This has just been so much fun to do these interviews with folks and have them say how they escaped the 9-to-5. So this is Sharon Bornholt with Innovative Property Solutions in the Louisville Gals Real Estate blog, and I'll be putting all of Steph's resources and link to her book, Flip This REO. I'll be putting all of that below the video. So thanks for stopping by, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for having me, Sharon.